Welcome, my fellow Americans. I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. Next up is our cleanup hitter, the one and only Ray Hanania.
And yep, I'm Ray Hanania, and thank you, Bill, co-host with me here at Two Guys on Politics. This is October 17, 2024, Thursday, Season 3, Episode 32. Sounds like a Star Wars episode that we're doing here. Today's focus is going to be on Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, and Vice President Kamala Harris, of course, and her interview on Fox News with Bret Baier, who is the host of the Fox News segment called Special Report. And they did this interview yesterday. And it was pretty controversial in the media. I watched it online. Bill, you watched it live yesterday, I think. Well, first of all, what did you think about how Kamala Harris did with Bret Baier on Fox News, which is a conservative channel? What did you think?
Well, first of all, I don't know why she would go on that channel. It certainly would not be favorable to her, no matter who the host of the segment that she was on. And all she has done in the past is gone on to be interviewed by people who are very favorable to her. So this was definitely a different scenario for her. And normally, I don't think that she's very well prepared. And I think she kept that up yesterday. I don't think she was very well prepared. Now, Bret Baier, what is it, Bret Beard?
Bret Baier.
Okay.
Yeah, Bret Baier.
Now, he was not hostile to her, but he was, I think, objective. I thought he asked good questions. I thought that, he was trying to get at some information that she has not been prepared to divulge so far, such as what is she going to do when she is president of the United States? I think once again, she was quite evasive.
Right.
I was surprised at how much she challenged him. I think that was the only thing that she really had planned, was to challenge him to show that a woman could stand up to one of the arch conservatives on the Fox News network. According to what I have read, Democrats thought she did a very, very good job. Republicans thought that they were happy she did it because they thought she came across, once again, not really telling us anything about her, not answering many of the questions that were proposed to her. She became hostile when she was asked a question. She gave an answer, and then there was a follow-up. Normally, she doesn't get any follow-ups because most of the people who question her are very friendly to her. So I personally believe that she lost some ground by doing this interview. I don't think it helped her. And I think it showed her once again, unfortunately, not to have that many issues that she really understands and that she can really articulate. That was my view of the situation.
Yeah, and of course I agree with you in a lot of respects. The one area where I might disagree is I think the opportunity to be challenged in a tough interview gives a candidate an opportunity to shine. Because a candidate that really knows the issues, you want the toughest questions. It's like Babe Ruth. Don't just lob the softball at me. Pitch me the fastest ball possible. And when you hit it out of the park and you get a homer, it's a huge win. So I think for candidates, we used to have that. We used to have candidates that were prepared for tough questions. I agree with you that Kamala Harris wasn't prepared for tough questions. She was prepared to turn whatever tough questions she was asked into contentious disruption, because her strategy and the Democratic strategy is to argue that the right media, Fox News, for example, doesn't want the answers. They just want to interrupt her and make her look bad. So when you read all of the media reports about this, the left media like the New York Times led their story about this important interview by saying Bret Baier interrupted her within the first 10 seconds of the interview. And I thought, no, he was pushing back the way a reporter is supposed to push back. She didn't answer the question. She was veering away from it, and it's a reporter's job to do that. So I thought we saw good journalism, but bad politics in that interview. And I also think it did, he brought some contradictions that the media doesn't want to bring up about Kamala Harris. And I thought he brought him up. He was very fair, I thought. Yes, he was pushy a little bit, but I think that's what journalists are supposed to be, and they haven't been like that for the past, I'd say, 20 years now. They've gone soft and lame. So I thought it was a great interview. I wish journalism continued like that, not just on the right, but on the left too.
Well, do you think that she gained anything by this interview?
No, I don't think so, because I think it's her fault she didn't gain. She didn't give good answers. She didn't spell out her policies. She allowed herself to deflect from, the defensive questions like, hey, I think one of them was that the Biden plan for immigration, they said, she said, well, we introduced an immigration plan, and Donald Trump did everything he could to block it so that he could argue that nothing was being done about immigration. But Bret Baier pointed out, well, your plan called for the accepting of 1.8 million illegal aliens in this country every year. And 6 Democrats and a lot of Republicans opposed that. She never addressed that. She wanted to get away from it. She wanted the confrontation, hoping that it would make her look good. But I think it made her look bad. I don't think she answered the questions in a substantive manner.
Well, I think that she reached a high point when she was nominated by the Democratic Party for president.
Yeah.
I think that she has continually slid from that high point. And I really blame her or her handlers for it. I think that she has continued to be very evasive on what she is going to do when she becomes president of the United States. She has also wanted to take credit for any good things that the Biden administration did, but anything bad,
Right.
she's off. She was only the vice president. She had to go along. So I really believe that her candidacy, and I think that's one of the reasons they decided to go on the Fox, is because their polling shows that she is slipping, particularly in the key states that could go either way, the states that will determine, who the next president of the United States is. Now,
Yeah.
Trump, for his part, he hasn't done too many dumb things for a change. Consequently, he hasn't lost, I don't think, any independent voters. I think there are still some independents that he can gravitate to. And also, he continues to gain strength among African American males, Hispanics, males and females are both headed towards him more and more. And I thought that at the Democratic convention, with the results of the polling after that, that she was going to win this election. Now, I really doubt seriously that she will win this election, because I think she is being viewed by more and more people as nothing but a very big smile, pleasant person, but one who has never really thought through issues and come up with ideas that she thought would be beneficial to the American people.
Yeah, I think she might be a great prosecutor in a courtroom where there's a structure on how to do things. But when she's on her feet on her own, responding to questions, I mean, I thought Bret Baier brought up another issue about, and I thought immigration was a big point. I wanted to hear what she had to say about immigration. And she tried to say that, of course, she's going to be different than Joe Biden, even though she's been with him the entire time. But Bret Baier asked her, he pointed out that I took some notes. He said that that she proposed when she was running for president in 2019, that she proposed free health care for illegal immigrants, enrollment in universities for illegal immigrants, and driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. And he asked her about that instead of defending it, because that was one of her big issues when she was appealing to the immigrant minority populations to get support when she was trying to become the president in 2019, when she was a candidate before she got out. She kind of just walked it back and said, well, today, her answer was, today I follow the law. Okay, what does that mean? You were calling for changes to the law. And now, in response to these really tough questions about immigration, you say, I follow the law. She said that several times in response to issues that she said. He played the videos of her talking, and she couldn't get away with it. So I think that really hurt her. It exposed her as kind of a hypocrite, I felt.
I think another thing she said several times, well, that was 5 years ago. That was
Yes,
five.
that's what she said.
And I think people say, well, you mean to tell me what you said 5 years ago, you no longer
Yes.
believe it? You've changed that much, that quickly? Once again, it sounds like a political opportunist. And I want to say right here and now, I still cannot stand Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay?
I mean, yeah, he's not, he doesn't have a very pleasant personality.
Oh, absolutely
And,
not.
but the point is that, we have to make a choice between two people. And there's still a hunger for somebody who can speak to the issues and the challenges that we face and give us solutions. And I do hear more from Trump. I may not agree with his solutions, but he's offering solutions. And I just don't hear the same from Harris. I think during the interview, she said, you can go to my website and I have all my answers, policies listed there for you to read. No, I want to hear you defend them and talk about them.
Right.
And she
Yeah.
hasn't done it yet.
No, I agree. And, the election is really right around the corner now. And she has not pulled away from Trump. And I believe that there are an awful lot of people in this country who will either say they are for her or they will say they haven't made up their mind yet, who really are for Trump. But like
Right.
me, they think his personality is terrible. They really don't want to be associated with him, but they feel that his policies are much better for America than her policies, whatever they might be. I mean, and I'm serious. I don't know where she stands. She was a
Right.
very, very liberal, progressive Democrat. I don't hear her talking that way now, but I have not heard her rejecting that either.
Yeah, I think the Democratic strategy and the Harris strategy is very simple. At first, it was keep her away from the press. The less she does interviews, the better off she is, which I agree with. She's not very good during interviews. And then I think they decided, well, why don't we put her out there where she could be beat up and she could use that as a defense that, oh, look how they attacked me. Look at Bret Baier, how unfair he is. And I'm thinking, my God, the reporters are 10 times worse with Trump than Bret Baier was with Kamala Harris. So I think they're caught between a rock and a hard place. Do they keep her away from the public and hear people complain that she doesn't do anything? Where is she? Why isn't she answering questions? Or do they put her out there and hope that people look at it and feel sympathy and say, oh, yeah, look at how they beat up on her, the poor woman. They want that female being brutalized and beaten up by a man to play into building support for her. I don't think either of those strategies works for her at all. I think she needs to stand up and say, this is what I'm going to do for immigration. She should have a press conference and outline, what are you going to do to stop the immigration? And take the questions from the press. Be tough. Show leadership. She hasn't done that.
Well, it upsets me that the Democrats say that Trump sabotaged the immigration bill
Right.
that Democrats and Republicans had worked on. Well, I know that he did speak to a number of Republican senators, suggesting to them that they do not support that bill because there were things in that bill that he was opposed to.
Right.
But the question I would always like to ask a Democrat is, you complain about Trump interfering in that, but why did it take Joe Biden 3.5 years to come up with any kind of legislation
Right.
dealing with immigration in this country? 3.5 years, no action whatsoever. you get close to the election and you see that next to the economy, the border situation is number 2 in the country. So now you're going to have some kind of plan to combat that. That's what question I would like to see asked of many Democrats, not only those running for president and vice president. And what has happened to the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic side? It seems to be like he's disappeared.
Right.
Because it seems to me like every time he appears, he says something that the fact checkers, within hours realize that it's incorrect.
Right. Well, the liberal media fact checkers don't like to fact check Democrats. They only like to fact check Republicans and Trump. So it's very uncomfortable for them. So I'm pretty sure they told, Harris and her team, can you take Waltz away? Because we really don't want to have to embarrass you and fact check, his contradictory comments that he makes. And that was another point about the benefits for illegal immigrants. Bret Baier pointed out, he said, well, your running mate, Tim Walz in Minnesota, has approved all that stuff. The college, the universities for illegal immigrants, the driver's licenses, the free health care. He's supported all those things that you now say, I will follow the law on. So it just was, she had an opportunity, I think, to really rise up above the only argument that she left with after that interview, that he was disruptive and he interrupted me and really was being disrespectful or whatever. She had an opportunity to really offer some solid programs, and she didn't do that. If there was one program that she would have offered, I think that would have been an achievement for her. But the more that they put her out, the worse it gets for her. And I think the more the public sees her, they lose the enthusiasm for her. I think it hurts her when she's in public. If I were her strategist, I would keep her out of I would make an excuse and say, that we're not going to put her out there because nobody wants to be fair to her, and run with that, because that would be much more, productive for her than it would be standing up there and babbling about slogans and shallow headlines that mean nothing with no program details.
Right. Nope. I agree with the only thing I disagree with, Ray, they are not illegal immigrants. They are illegal aliens.
True.
Okay?
Yeah, and I was using the term that was used on the show. I agree with you. These are not immigrants. I consider immigrants, we're welcoming for immigrants. This country, we support immigrants coming to this country through the legal process. Anybody who comes in to this country outside of the legal process is an illegal alien. I totally agree with you. Migrants are not immigrants. Migrants who come into this country illegally are illegals. And I think that term, we've made that into a negative term. When you say that, they say, oh, that's horrible to say that. And I think that's wrong. I think that's the precise term to describe somebody who comes into this country illegally without going through the system that my parents came into. They did it the right way. They were legal immigrants. They love this country. They embrace this country. And the only place you see Trump allowed to say that, because he says it all the time, but the left-wing media cuts it out, that he supports legal immigration. Immigrants, he supports immigrants from everywhere coming here legally. They want to confuse it. And I think you make a good point. And that was my mistake. Illegal immigration is a leftist term that they've tried to impose on us.
Absolutely. And she also, 5 years ago, said that she would decriminalize people coming across the border illegally. Right. Has she really changed her position on that?
No, and see, I think the issues that you brought up, that Bret Baier brought up, are the issues that Americans most care about: immigration, illegal aliens who come into this country, illegal migrants, feed into our crime. It feeds into a very important issue of crime and safety, and I think those are the issues that they care about. Now, it's easy for the left to talk about abortion in a very generic way. They just say the word abortion. It's a woman's right. but they never dig down into the details of, okay, let's say we accept abortion. What are the restrictions on abortion? They never talk about that. They
No,
don't want to talk about that. And I think that's part of the problem.
and well, just so Trump doesn't get away, unscathed in this, I have to say that he continually makes the mistake when he's on television of talking about January 6th. Everybody has made up their mind about January 6th. He is not going to change anybody's mind. All it does is reinforce in a number of people that he was trying to, disrupt the election. He was trying to overturn the election, which I happen to believe he was trying to do. Now, many of us supporters don't. Okay, we have a difference of opinion, but he should move on from that. I don't believe that's doing him any good whatsoever by continually talking about January 6th. And when he tells you, that it left his speech is a peaceful democratic demonstration. Well, man, what happened between there and when they got to the Capitol? Most of those people were not very peaceful whatsoever.
Well, I remember when I was a young reporter covering Chicago City Hall, and I saw the tactic of attacking somebody who was incompetent to hold office, veil and cover the incompetency and focus on the public on the attack. And that was when Jane Byrne kept attacking Richard M. Daley over and over and over again. He was just not ready to be mayor, but she constantly attacked him, made him a victim, made him a martyr, and nobody looked at Rich Daley. What they did was they looked at Jane Byrne's meanness and her attacks. And I think what's happening is nobody's really looking at Trump's, ridiculous statements sometimes, because the media is so anti-Trump and unfair that they are actually creating a shield for him. Nobody talks about his problems except the far left. And I think that their attacks against him are actually helping him.
Oh, I agree with that very definitely. Well, I have said all along that the suits that were instituted, the legal suits that were instituted against him by Democratic prosecutors across this country have done nothing but help him. People have felt he has been picked on by the federal government, by state governments, that they are using legal means to try to prevent him, from once again being president. But, that's my perspective.
Yeah, and the left, I think, continues to feed the environment that Trump thrives in, that he's treated unfairly, that the justice system is weaponized against him. The way the media attacks him and fact checks him, but doesn't fact check the left like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as much as they should. And they avoid it, believe me. They're fueling his base. And I think they're responsible for what this country is going to face on November 5th. And I don't know if there are any other election issues coming up at all. Is there anything out there that we should be watching right now? We're only a few weeks away.
I think we have to watch the Senate races because the Senate is going to be very, very important. I just hope and pray whoever wins the presidency, the opposite party controls the Senate, so we don't get any radical legislation passed by the left or the right. I was going to say something else in regards to Trump, but now I don't remember what it is, but I think I've said enough for this week anyway.
Did I bully you and interrupt you? Did I do a Bret Baier? I'm joking. All right, I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski.
And this has been Two Guys on Politics. And we thank you for listening and watching our program. We did really well with last week's program, Bill. And we hope you find this interesting. And by the way, on the post on YouTube where we post Two Guys on Politics, I will have the link to the Harris and Bret Baier interview on Fox News from yesterday, October 16th, Wednesday. So you could watch it yourself and see how we did also in addressing the issues. Thank you, everybody.
Okie doke. Have a good day and good week and good night.